There's Birdcage Zombie. He's fun. If I was going to have a like a little doll, that's the one that I'd want. Birdcage Zombie. He's cute. That'd be good for like a McDonald's campaign, don't you think? Yeah. Anyway. Hello, my name is Kiah Roache-Turner. I'm the writer-director of Wyrmwood Apocalypse, a crazy zombie film that's going to come out in February 10. So see it in a cinema. But right now we're going to be talking about the post-title sequence, which is a couple of different sequences, which is my favourite section of the film. So I'm very excited to be talking to you guys about that right now. And boom, we open on a close-up of eyes. Always a good way to open a film, especially if you want to be arty. 7 o'clock in the morning, always good to tell the audience what time it is. Here's Luke McKenzie with his rugged good looks. So this first wide, this is interesting. This looks like an incredibly decrepit, horrible, filthy caravan that's been sitting around for, 10 years, because it is. So usually the way to do something like this is you do all the externals on location, all the internals, you just build it and put it in the studio. It's all air conditioned and beautiful. You can fly the walls so you can move the cameras around, and originally I'd storyboarded so you'd have all these amazing tracking shots, and this was going to be this coup de grace artistic moment of beautiful camera movement. But on the day when we're looking at the budget, the producer's like, yeah, you're joking, like we don't have the budget for that. You get one caravan, we're shooting it all on location. So this is a location that's, I mean, you can see it, it's like a slightly large bathroom. So all of my ideas of tracking and all of that kind of stuff are out the window. It's one handheld camera operator inside, like a sound team, like jammed up against the wall. I'm in the corner like a weird little hobbit, kind of direct, over through somebody's legs. And that decided the style. So it's all very simple, handheld, in a real location. So this caravan, we went to scout the location. And I was explaining to the location guy, like, we start in this caravan, on top of a hill overlooking all these woods, and he's like that one? And we look over and there's literally a caravan sitting in the middle of a field. Like, it's just there, and it's horrible and it's filthy and it's like perfect. All we need to do is build a fence around it and insert some props and a few actors. So it was like destiny, Beautiful bit of side lighting there from Storm Ashwood. You had like a massive 3K just sitting, popping through the windows, beautiful side light. That Days In thing, that was scripted and storyboarded, but just the way that our production designer, Esther Rosenberg, and our team were able to manufacture that thing with, Days In and all the numbers of how long he's been in the apocalypse. It's just a quick shot, but it really says a lot about the world that he's in and the psychology of what he's had to go through. I mean, he's hundreds of days in. This guy's in a pretty weird headspace. Budget and necessity dictated the style, and I think in the end it was better than what I had imagined, because what I had storyboarded was to a certain extent cliche. It's an example of the necessity of budget actually making something slightly more interesting than the planned intent. Boom. All right, the first piece of ultraviolence in the film. Yeah, so Folklore did all of our sound, a guy called Sam Gain-Emery. Because of COVID, they were up in Queensland, and so everything was over email or phone or Zoom. But I mean, when I sat down with Sam, I was just like, Fury Road with zombies, and he's like, yeah, I get it. Okay, I'll see you in 6 months. Every time we'd have a meeting, my brother Tristan would be just there going, just make it like massive, man, just make it chunky, like chunky Sam. And like, that's my impression of my brother. And Sam would be like, chunky, cool, got it. And he'd come back with all these chunky things. The zombies, the screeching is a combination of, I hate to say it, but it's true, babies crying. I'm sure it was all above board. Dogs, somebody had a bunch of dogs that they just held a microphone to, and the dogs made weird noises. Eagles screeching, and then just people shoving things in their mouth and going, and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's a combination of all these different elements. I believe they even scraped metal and inserted bits and pieces. So these guys are like, they're just like sound guru sort of wizards. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so this opening drone shot, I knew we wanted a lot of drone photography, and I wanted the drone photography to be insanely dynamic and raw and almost dangerous feeling. I really wanted it to feel like it was some kind of eagle soaring through everything, and just some kind of monstrous spirit that's like ripping you through the air of the world. And when I talked to a normal drone operator who's sitting there with this like massive drone that costs about as much as a Ferrari, he's like, yeah, you're not going to do that with my drone. And also safety and like the things that I wanted to do, you couldn't do with a drone that big. We sacrificed some of the image because we don't get the beautiful depth of field and the expensive lenses and, you know, the huge digital sensor that gives you those beautiful images that you see in the usual Bond movies and Marvel and whatnot. But what we miss out on visually, we gain because it's so dynamic and violent and interesting, and you're not really used to seeing that kind of drone photography in a feature film. And you know, one of my theories on a film like this that is super low budget but hopefully can compete with some big budget films is you have to be able to do something that they can't do, and it's not going to be explosions and beautiful photography. It's going to be when the audience is there going, oh, I didn't expect that, you know. And part of that is in some of the insane drone photography that we were able to get. So Nick Cave, if you get a really decent, well-known, well-loved pop track that is also narratively on point, and you insert it into your film, you get a validation instantly in the audience that says this is already part of culture. It's a really easy way to like make your scene better. It can also backfire because it can come across as try-hard, but like that's if you've chosen incorrectly or your film is bad. Hopefully that hasn't happened here. It's a moment of joy for the audience. So if I just had score here, it would be a good scene, but you're not going to get that moment where the audience goes, oh yes, this is going to be good. And the song just kicks ass. And I wish that we'd had a few more of these songs in it, but it's just a budget thing. We had one shot, and I think we put it in the right place, right at the start of the film, so the film starts sexy. It really starts the film with just an unfair 15% coolness factor that if I didn't have Nick Cave just wouldn't be there. So thank God Nick was available. We had a day to do all the externals for this scene. It was 96 setups for this day. Now usually on a big budget Hollywood film like a Marvel film, you might get 7 setups a day, you might get 10, 7, 10. On an indie film, if you got 25, you're killing it. People are starting to do more, like maybe 40, you know, but that's pushing it. But 96 is literally and physically kind of impossible. And the way we did it was we just didn't stop shooting. You know, we couldn't do overtime, we couldn't afford it, so we just got there and we just shot and shot and shot all day, 3 cameras just constantly churning. And amazingly, we got to the end of the day and we made our day, and we did do 96 setups in one day, which is pretty phenomenal. On the first film we had all real meat, and I don't think people liked it very much because it gets very stinky in hot weather, and it's just disgusting having a bucket of raw meat sort of sitting next to the catering tent. It's not appreciated. So Esther made up these big gloopy foam bits of meat and just covered it in fake blood, and it doesn't look like real meat. It looks like whale meat or something, but it kind of works. Like nobody cares. They're just like, I guess they're hunting bears or something. All of these things had to kind of work, or at least look like they worked. You know, the zombie on the irrigation thing that's being powered by it, you know, on the bike, that was made, you know. We'd get him up there and it was all safe, and he was a stunt guy and he just started pedaling, and then the irrigation system would come in and I'd be turning to my art department going, how did you even do that? And they're just like, just shoot. They're too tired to even, I didn't even want to tell you. Those poor people were so tired. You know, I mean, I'm standing here getting like all the glory going, and this is how I made my film. But actually, half of this stuff is just these amazing artists who break their butts to create these beautiful things that just kind of started in here. And then you see how good it is coming out, you know, on screen, and it's quite humbling, yeah. This meat catapult, you know, like I sort of drew up a quick idea of what that might be. Esther redesigned it, and I assumed that we'd have to fake it, but I got on set And I'm like, okay, so how are we going to make it look like it's, and you know, Esther's just like, make it look like, no, this is a functioning catapult. So it's really nice when you arrive on set and you have all these things that are built that are just functional, and that, again, that just cuts down on time. So he put meat in it and he fired it over the fence and it landed 20 meters away, which is exactly the premise of what I needed for that moment in action. Didn't have to trick any of it, could shoot it in, you know, 3 minutes, which was fantastic. Oh, I love that big clangy thing. The clangy thing on the front of the truck, I didn't even, like, I just arrived one day and the guy who built the truck just went, oh, what do you think of that? And I'm just like, well, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And that's one of my favorite moments because it's, again, like my brother says, chunky. Wyrmwood has to have big chunky things, and that's a chunky thing with a big chunky sound effect. And it's just, you know, like it's a really, you know, kind of over the top, masculine, crazy, weird, stupid thing, but it just resonates on screen. And it kind of looks like pig tusks. And so the art department christened this the War Pig, which I think is an apt name. Yeah, anyway, so there's the scene. Thank you so much for listening to me prattle on about this scene, and obviously I'm super passionate about this film. It was a labour of love for myself and my brother and all the people involved. It's coming out February 10. Please see it in a theatre. Watch it on a big chunky screen like God intended.